In the heart of the African savanna, the kingdom of Nambali thrived. Surrounded by lush greenery, flowing rivers, and rich farmlands, the kingdom was a beacon of prosperity under the wise rule of Queen Zuri. She was not only revered for her leadership but for her deep connection with her people. Known for her compassion, Queen Zuri ensured that every corner of her kingdom flourished, with no soul left in want or hunger. The people of Nambali adored their queen, hailing her as the mother of the land. Festivals were held in her honor, and her name was sung in the market squares. But while peace reigned in the kingdom, dark clouds loomed on the horizon. The cycle of seasons, once reliable and nourishing, began to falter. A drought threatened the very essence of Nambali's prosperity, and whispers of concern spread throughout the villages. The skies, once brimming with rain, now burned with relentless heat. Weeks turned to months without a drop of rain, and soon the rivers began to recede. The crops that once painted the fields in green and gold shriveled, leaving barren lands in their wake. Livestock perished, and the people of Nambali, once full of life and laughter, grew thin and weary. Queen Zuri, distressed by the suffering of her people, gathered her council to seek solutions. The greatest minds in the kingdom offered ideas to conserve what little water remained, but none could find a way to summon the rain. The kingdom began to crack under the weight of drought, and in the quiet of her chambers, Queen Zuri prayed to the ancient spirits, asking for guidance. Word soon spread of an ancient oracle who lived in the mountains beyond the kingdom. With no other options, Queen Zuri made the perilous journey, hoping for a way to save her people. Accompanied by a few trusted advisors, they traveled for days through the scorched land, each step more daunting than the last. The once familiar terrain had transformed into a desolate desert, a haunting reflection of Nambali's fate. Upon reaching the oracle's cave, Queen Zuri was greeted by an ancient figure, her face weathered by time but her eyes burning with untold wisdom. The oracle spoke of a prophecy, one that had been forgotten by time. Only a sacrifice of great worth, she revealed, could bring back the rains and restore life to the kingdom. But this sacrifice, she warned, must be greater than gold or wealth. It must come from the heart of Nambali itself. The oracle's words echoed in Queen Zuri's mind as she returned to her palace. The weight of the kingdom's fate bore heavily on her shoulders. She knew the oracle spoke the truth, but the question lingered, what could she offer that was of such immense value? Days passed, and the queen consulted with her council, but no one could think of a sacrifice worthy enough to please the spirits. Alone in her chambers, Queen Zuri looked out over the parched lands, her heart breaking for her people. It was then that the answer came to her, like a whisper from the winds. The sacrifice had to be her, she was the heart of Nambali. Only her life could call forth the rains and save her beloved kingdom. Tears filled her eyes as she prepared for the ultimate act of love and duty. Summoning her council for the final time, Queen Zuri shared her decision. Shock and disbelief filled the room as her advisors protested. How could the kingdom survive without its queen? Who would lead the people? But Queen Zuri, ever steadfast, silenced their concerns. The land is dying, she said softly, and with it, the people. If my sacrifice can save them, then it is my duty to give everything. The council bowed their heads in sorrow, knowing they could not change her mind. Preparations were made for the queen's final prayer, and word spread throughout the kingdom of the queen's impending sacrifice. The people mourned, yet they understood that their queen, who had always loved them more than herself, would give everything to protect them one last time. At dawn, Queen Zuri stood at the sacred altar, a place where generations of Nambali kings and queens had come to commune with the spirits. She wore a simple robe, free of the adornments of royalty. As the first light touched the horizon, she raised her arms to the sky and began to chant the ancient prayers passed down through her ancestors. With each word, she felt the power of the spirits drawing near. The air grew heavy, and the ground beneath her trembled. The people of Nambali gathered around the altar, their faces full of sorrow and hope. Queen Zuri closed her eyes, offering herself fully to the spirits. Her heart swelled with love for her people, and in that moment, she knew she had made the right choice. As Queen Zuri finished her prayer, a gust of wind swept through the land. The sky darkened, and thunder rumbled in the distance. The people gasped as the queen began to glow with a radiant light, her body slowly dissolving into the earth beneath her feet. Her outstretched arms became branches, her legs rooted deep into the soil. Before their eyes, Queen Zuri transformed into a towering baobab tree, her roots reaching deep into the parched land. The people wept, both in sorrow and awe, as they watched their queen become one with the earth. The skies, which had been dry for so long, began to churn with clouds, and the first drops of rain began to fall. It was a miracle, the queen's sacrifice had summoned the life-giving rains. The rain fell gently at first, a soft patter that grew into a downpour. The people of Nambali danced in the streets, their joy uncontainable. For the first time in months, the rivers began to fill, and the once dry fields soaked in the life-giving water. The land drank deeply, and soon the signs of renewal began to appear. Shoots of green pushed through the cracked earth, and the people knew that life would return to Nambali. But even as they celebrated, their hearts ached with loss. Queen Zuri had given her life so that they could live, and though the rains were a blessing, her absence was a heavy burden. The great baobab tree that now stood in her place was both a reminder of her sacrifice and a symbol of her eternal love. As the rains washed over Nambali, the kingdom rejoiced, but a deep sorrow lingered in the hearts of the people. They had gained back the life-giving water, yet lost the heart of their kingdom. Queen Zuri, their beloved leader, had become the towering baobab that now stood at the center of the capital, a constant reminder of her sacrifice. People gathered around the tree, some in quiet prayer, others in tearful lamentation. Every villager, young and old, placed offerings at the base of the tree, flowers, fruits, and carved figurines, honoring their queen's memory. They spoke of how, in life, Queen Zuri had nurtured them, and now, in death, she continued to protect them as a sacred tree. The baobab became a place of pilgrimage, and though her body was gone, her presence remained as strong as ever. At night, under the soft rustle of the tree's leaves, the people whispered stories of her greatness, passing her legacy down to future generations. With the return of the rains, the kingdom of Nambali began to heal. The rivers flowed once more, bringing nourishment to the farmlands. Crops sprouted from the rejuvenated soil, livestock grew healthy again, and the lush greenery of the land returned. The people worked tirelessly to restore their homes, thankful for the abundance that followed the queen's sacrifice. The air was filled with the smell of fresh earth and the sounds of laughter and joy, but beneath it all, the memory of Zuri's selflessness remained. Under the leadership of Queen Zuri's closest advisor, Chief Maliko, the kingdom began to rebuild its strength. He had been chosen by Zuri herself to serve as regent in her absence, and though no one could replace the queen, the people trusted his guidance. Chief Maliko often sought counsel beneath the baobab tree, asking for Zuri's wisdom to guide him in difficult decisions. Though the land had healed, new challenges lay ahead, ensuring that the kingdom would not only survive but flourish in the future. The great baobab tree, which had once been Queen Zuri, became the heart of the kingdom in more ways than one. Its enormous branches stretched wide, providing shelter and shade to those who sought its protection. As the seasons passed, the tree bore fruit, nourishing the people just as Zuri had done in life. Its thick bark was said to have healing properties, and villagers would collect pieces to make remedies for the sick and injured. The legends of Queen Zuri and her sacrifice spread far beyond the borders of Nambali. Travelers and traders from distant lands came to see the majestic tree and hear the tale of the queen who had given her life to save her people. Many knelt before the tree in reverence, feeling the presence of something greater. The whispers of the wind through its leaves were said to carry Zuri's voice, comforting those who listened closely. The kingdom thrived, but the baobab's significance deepened with every passing year. Years passed, and under Chief Maliko's guidance, Nambali enjoyed a period of prosperity. The kingdom's resources were plentiful, and the people were strong. But peace was not to last forever. Rumors began to spread of a neighboring kingdom, Kendu, led by a ruthless warlord named King Sefu. His armies had grown powerful, conquering smaller villages and territories, amassing wealth and soldiers along the way. His ambitions had no bounds, and soon his gaze turned toward Nambali. King Sefu's spies reported the strength of Nambali's people and the wealth of its lands. However, they also spoke of a kingdom that had lost its queen, now led by a regent. Sefu saw an opportunity to strike while Nambali was still healing from the drought and believed the kingdom was vulnerable without a true ruler. He began amassing his forces, preparing for an invasion that would shake Nambali to its core. Chief Maliko sensed the danger on the horizon. Reports of King Sefu's movements reached him, and he knew that Nambali would soon be tested. He called upon the kingdom's strongest warriors, preparing them for the inevitable confrontation. The people, though filled with fear, were resolute in their determination to protect their land. Many of them believed that the spirit of Queen Zuri still watched over them through the baobab tree, and they drew strength from that belief. Maliko spent many nights at the base of the tree, seeking guidance from the spirit of Zuri. He asked for her wisdom in how to defend the kingdom and protect its people from the threat of King Sefu's armies. One evening, as he knelt beneath the tree, a gentle breeze rustled through its branches, and he swore he heard a whisper in the wind, "Stand firm, and trust in the strength of the land." With renewed resolve, Maliko knew what had to be done. The people of Nambali were not strangers to hardship, and when Chief Maliko called for volunteers to defend the kingdom, many stepped forward. Warriors, farmers, blacksmiths, and hunters alike took up arms, ready to fight for their home. They forged weapons from the metal of old plows and reinforced their walls with stones from the riverbanks. Though they lacked the numbers of King Sefu's forces, their hearts burned with the courage of a people who had endured the worst of drought and loss. Maliko divided his forces into battalions, each led by a trusted warrior. He knew that their strength would not be in numbers, but in strategy. Using the natural landscape to their advantage, the people of Nambali built traps in the dense forests and fortified their position around the sacred baobab tree. As the preparations continued, a sense of unity spread throughout the kingdom. Every man, woman, and child played their part in the defense of Nambali. The day of reckoning arrived. As the sun rose over the horizon, King Sefu's army marched toward Nambali, a dark wave of soldiers ready to sweep over the land. The earth trembled under the weight of their armor, and the sound of drums echoed through the valleys. From the walls of Nambali, the people watched with anxious hearts as the enemy drew closer. Despite their fear, they stood resolute, ready to defend their homeland. Chief Maliko positioned his warriors strategically across the kingdom, using the terrain to their advantage. In the forests surrounding Nambali, archers hid among the trees, poised to rain arrows upon the enemy. In the open fields, traps lay hidden beneath the grass, ready to snare any who dared venture too close. As King Sefu's army approached, the first wave of battle was set in motion, with the people of Nambali fighting for their survival. As King Sefu's soldiers entered the forest, they were met with fierce resistance. Nambali's archers unleashed a torrent of arrows from the trees, taking out many of the invaders before they even realized what had happened. The traps set by the villagers worked flawlessly, ensnaring the enemy and leaving them vulnerable to attack. Though outnumbered, the people of Nambali fought with unmatched tenacity, drawing strength from the spirit of Queen Zuri and the sacred baobab tree. King Sefu, watching the battle from a distance, was enraged by the unexpected resistance. He had underestimated the people of Nambali, but he was not one to give up easily. He ordered his commanders to regroup and press forward with greater force. The battle intensified as both sides clashed in the heart of the forest, the sound of steel against steel echoing through the trees. Despite Nambali's strategic defense, King Sefu's forces slowly began to push through the outer defenses. By the time the sun reached its peak, the enemy had laid siege to the capital. The walls of Nambali, though fortified, were now under attack by battering rams and siege weapons. The people inside the city watched in horror as the enemy advanced, but they did not lose hope. Chief Maliko, ever the steady leader, rallied his forces, reminding them of their duty to protect their home. In the midst of the chaos, the great baobab tree stood tall, its massive branches providing shelter to the warriors who fought in its shadow. Some whispered prayers to Queen Zuri, asking for her protection. Others drew strength from the legend of her sacrifice, knowing that they were fighting not only for themselves but for the legacy she had left behind. As the siege continued, both sides suffered heavy losses, and the battle seemed far from over. On the third night of the siege, as the moon hung high in the sky, Chief Maliko sat at the base of the baobab tree, his heart heavy with the weight of the ongoing battle. He closed his eyes, seeking guidance from the spirit of Queen Zuri. The wind rustled through the leaves, and for a moment, everything was still. Then, in the quiet of the night, a soft whisper carried through the air. Trust the land, Maliko. The earth holds the key. Maliko's eyes flew open, his mind racing. He knew that the people of Nambali had always had a deep connection with the land, and Zuri had been the embodiment of that connection. Her transformation into the baobab tree had been a testament to the power of nature itself. With renewed purpose, Maliko gathered his council and shared his revelation. They needed to use the land in ways they had not yet considered. Inspired by the whispered words, Chief Maliko devised a bold plan. Beneath the city of Nambali ran a network of ancient tunnels and caves, long forgotten by most of the kingdom. These tunnels had been used by the ancestors in times of war, providing secret passageways for defense and escape. Maliko believed these tunnels could be the key to turning the tide of the battle. He ordered his most trusted warriors to gather in the dead of night and enter the tunnels. Their mission was to use these passageways to strike from within the enemy's ranks, launching surprise attacks that would confuse and weaken King Sefu's forces. The plan was risky, but Maliko knew it was their best chance at survival. As the warriors prepared to descend into the tunnels, the people of Nambali held their breath, praying for the success of the mission. Under the cover of darkness, Nambali's warriors moved through the underground tunnels, emerging behind enemy lines with precision and stealth. The element of surprise worked in their favor, and the first wave of attacks caught King Sefu's soldiers off guard. Chaos erupted as the warriors of Nambali struck swiftly, disappearing back into the tunnels before the enemy could regroup. This tactic proved effective, and over the next several nights, Nambali's warriors continued their strikes from the shadows. King Sefu, frustrated and enraged by the turn of events, ordered his men to double their efforts, but the damage had already been done. The morale of his army began to wane, and whispers of retreat started to spread among the ranks. Realizing that his forces were crumbling, King Sefu made a desperate decision. He ordered his remaining soldiers to focus all their efforts on breaching the city's walls and capturing the baobab tree, believing that its destruction would demoralize the people of Nambali and end the battle once and for all. But Chief Maliko, anticipating this move, had already fortified the area around the tree with his strongest warriors. As Sefu's army launched its final assault, they were met with fierce resistance. The people of Nambali fought with every ounce of strength they had left, determined to protect the sacred baobab and the legacy of their queen. In a dramatic final clash, King Sefu himself was struck down by one of Nambali's warriors, and his army, leaderless and demoralized, began to scatter. With King Sefu's death, the battle came to an end. The people of Nambali had emerged victorious, but the cost of the war weighed heavily on their hearts. Many had been lost in the fighting, and the kingdom itself bore the scars of the siege. The walls were damaged, homes had been destroyed, and the land needed time to heal once more. Chief Maliko stood before the baobab tree, reflecting on the events that had unfolded. The whispers of Queen Zuri had guided him when he needed it most, and her sacrifice continued to protect the kingdom even after her transformation. Maliko vowed to honor her memory by rebuilding Nambali stronger than ever, with a renewed sense of unity and purpose. In the months following the battle, Nambali entered a new era of peace and rebuilding. The people worked tirelessly to repair the damage done to their kingdom, and under Chief Maliko's leadership, Nambali began to thrive once more. The great baobab tree continued to stand as a symbol of resilience and strength, its branches providing shade and its roots drawing nourishment from the land. The children of Nambali grew up hearing stories of Queen Zuri and her sacrifice, and the tree became a place of gathering for the community. Festivals were held in its honor, and it was said that on quiet nights, the queen's voice could still be heard in the wind, offering guidance and comfort to all who sought it. As the years passed, the baobab tree became more than just a symbol. It was believed to house the very spirit of Queen Zuri herself. Many who came to sit beneath its branches spoke of feeling a calming presence, as if the queen was watching over them. Healers often gathered at the base of the tree to collect its bark and fruit, which were believed to have powerful healing properties. The people of Nambali no longer saw the tree as just a reminder of the past, it was a living embodiment of their queen's eternal spirit. The tree became a place of pilgrimage, where people from across the land would come to seek wisdom, healing, and protection. The legend of Queen Zuri and the baobab continued to grow, weaving itself into the very fabric of Nambali's culture. As Nambali flourished, news of the baobab tree and its mystical properties spread far and wide. Scholars from distant lands traveled to the kingdom, curious about the stories they had heard. These scholars, well-versed in ancient lore and the study of nature, sought to understand the true power of the tree. Was it merely legend, or was there something deeper at play? Upon their arrival, they were welcomed by Chief Maliko, who shared the history of Queen Zuri's sacrifice. The scholars spent weeks studying the baobab, analyzing its growth, its fruit, and the soil around it. While they were intrigued by its natural properties, none could deny the sense of awe that overcame them as they stood in its presence. Even the most skeptical among them left Nambali believing in the spirit of the queen. One night, as Chief Maliko slept beneath the baobab tree, he had a vivid dream. In it, Queen Zuri appeared to him, radiant and serene. She stood in the same robes she had worn on the day of her sacrifice, her eyes filled with warmth and love. She spoke to him, her voice as gentle as the wind through the leaves. "Maliko," she said, "you have done well to protect our people, but your journey is not yet over. There is more to be done. Nambali must continue to grow, not only in strength but in wisdom. The land is healing, but the true strength of a kingdom lies in its heart, the people. Teach them to honor the earth, to live in harmony with it, and Nambali will flourish for generations to come." Maliko awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. The queen's message had been clear, and he knew that his role as leader was far from over. Inspired by Queen Zuri's dream, Chief Maliko began to implement new teachings throughout the kingdom. He established the School of the Earth, where children and adults alike could learn about the importance of living in harmony with nature. The school taught not only farming techniques and the importance of water conservation but also the spiritual connection between the land and its people. The teachings were based on the wisdom of Queen Zuri, who had always believed that the strength of Nambali came from its connection to the earth. The people embraced these teachings, and soon the kingdom became known not only for its prosperity but for its deep respect for the natural world. The baobab tree stood as the centerpiece of these teachings, a living reminder of the bond between the land and the people. Under the guidance of Chief Maliko and the teachings of the School of the Earth, Nambali entered a golden age of peace and prosperity. The kingdom's people were united in their respect for the land, and the lessons of Queen Zuri had taken root in the hearts of all. Crops flourished, and the rivers ran clear and strong. Nambali became a beacon of sustainability and wisdom, attracting visitors from far and wide who sought to learn from the kingdom's practices. Other nations looked to Nambali as an example of how to live in balance with nature, and many sent their own scholars to study under the School of the Earth. As the years passed, Chief Maliko grew old, but his wisdom only deepened. One evening, as he sat beneath the baobab tree, he felt a familiar breeze rustling through the leaves. Closing his eyes, he listened carefully, and once again, he heard the voice of Queen Zuri. "Maliko," she whispered, "my time has come to join the ancestors fully, but I will always be with you. The tree will remain, but my spirit is now at peace, knowing that Nambali will thrive for generations to come. You have honored me well, my friend." Tears filled Maliko's eyes as he thanked her for her guidance and love. He knew that her spirit would always be present in the land, even if her voice could no longer be heard. As the years went by, the great baobab tree continued to stand tall, its roots deep in the earth and its branches reaching toward the sky. The people of Nambali never forgot the sacrifice of their beloved Queen Zuri, and the tree remained a sacred place where they could come to seek comfort and strength. Chief Maliko, now an elder, often sat beneath its branches, sharing the stories of the queen with the younger generations. He knew that even after he was gone, the legacy of Queen Zuri and the baobab tree would live on, a symbol of the eternal bond between the land and its people. And so, the kingdom of Nambali continued to flourish, its people ever mindful of the lessons passed down through the ages. The baobab tree remained, standing as a testament to the power of love, sacrifice, and the unbreakable connection between a queen and her people. Legends of the tree spread far and wide, and to this day, travelers come to Nambali to sit beneath its branches, listening for the whispers of the wind that carry the voice of Queen Zuri, the eternal protector of her kingdom.
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing tales. Join our growing community by subscribing and sharing your favorite part of today's story in the comments.